my chapter.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to do the derivatives of the other 4 trig functions. Okay. And really, now that we've done product and quotient rules, you should be, or really just quotient. Okay, you should be able to derive all of the other derivatives of the 4 trig functions we have not done. Okay.
Do you want me to start recording?
It did, didn't it?
Yes, oh, you're right. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it started. All right. So let's say we were going to do the derivative of the tangent function. We're going to find the derivative of tangent. With a little remembering from trig, you would remember that tangent could also be written as sine over cosine.
Oh.
So really, you're doing the derivative with respect to x of sine x over cosine x.
Excuse me. Sorry.
If you want to find the derivative of a fraction, aka quotient, you can just use your quotient rule. Okay? Quotient rule is?
Low D high minus high D low. And divide by square root of what's below.
Very good. Okay? Low D high minus high D low over the square of what's below. Okay? So, your derivative would be low D high, which would be what?
Sine x.
D high. That means the derivative of the one that's on the top. The derivative of sine x would be cosine x.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Minus I.
Negative sine x.
Derivative of the low would be negative sine x.
All
All over
the root of what's below.
square of what's below.
Oh.
Sweet. So, careful. So on the top, you have, if you simplify, you got cosine squared, because cosine x times cosine x would be cosine squared x, or cosine of x in parentheses squared. Right? I'm going to write it out.
Alright.
So cosine squared x, or you could write it this way as that in parentheses raised to the second power.
Would it matter?
What do you got back here? No, same thing. Positive.
Yeah.
Distribute that.
But once you distribute, I thought you were going to distribute both.
Would be negative times sine x would be negative sine x, and then negative sine x times another negative sine x would be a positive sine squared x.
Roger.
And then I can write that simply as cosine squared x.
Put that as 1 on top.
Very good. Cosine squared plus sine squared equals 1.
Ooh, yeah.
Wait, wasn't this
Little
a
toss
rule
back.
last year?
Yep.
That's
So
yeah.
Trig identity.
Yeah.
Love this.
Oh, this is on secant.
Secant squared.
Wow, this is awful.
I love this. Crazy how men do that.
Okay.
Crazy how men do that.
So the derivative of tangent is secant squared. Okay? Derivative of tangent is secant squared. This deriving, us figuring out what the derivative of tangent would equal, okay? You will be asked to either do the tangent, derive the cotangent, derive the cosecant, derive the secant. You'll be asked to derive one of those on C7.
Showing.
Okay, that means this, what you see right here.
It's
Yep.
like
Are you sure we're not
it's like
doing a proof
memorize
of
all the
this?
answers,
Okay.
but
No, no. So, I want you to rewrite tangent as this, then show me you're using the quotient rule, okay? You could probably skip that step, I mean, but write that and then equals secant squared.
Sure we're not doing a proof of this
Okay.
like last year?
Well, essentially, I mean, you're kind of doing that.
Should we write JED at the bottom?
No. All right, so there's the derivative of tangent. So now we got three derivatives of the 6. The derivative of sine is cosine. The derivative of cosine is the opposite of sine, or negative sine. And the derivative of tangent is secant squared. Okay? We still have the derivative of cosecant, secant, and cotangent left to do.
Let's do it.
Okay? I'll do one more with you. I don't want to do cotangent, okay, because that one's going to be very much like this. Okay, I think you'll be able to figure that one out on your own. All right? I'll give you some time to work on it. Let's do maybe one of the secants or cosecants.
Let's do cosecant.
Cosecant?
Let's do this.
So what do you think we would do?
Rewrite it.
Rewrite it as
1
over sine.
So like last year, you want it in terms of sine and cosine and tangent.
You'll want it as simple as you can make it. I mean, that last one you could have left as 1 over cosine squared, but when we can write 1 over cosine squared as secant squared, that's a lot nicer because then you don't have to deal with the fraction.
Gotcha.
So again, now when we go to do the derivative, you will use the quotient rule. So low, d high,
0.
0, minus high, d low,
Cosine.
So it would be negative cosine x?
on the top, yep.
Oh, right, because then it's over.
All over
Luke, you're skipping steps.
Sorry.
the square of what's below.
I'm gonna use the good part.
Okay. So, as Luke said, the numerator is negative cosine x over sine squared x.
Sine x 0 is just 1.
So do you want us to change that into negative cosine x times, I want to say secant squared? No, cosecant squared?
I'm going to go
Oh,
even a
what is
little
that?
further.
Ah.
Oh, because the first one, isn't that equal to negative 1?
Cotangent.
Or negative cotangent?
Why'd you
And
want
then
to
the other
go-
one will be, okay.
What I want to do is I want to write this as, it has to be two trig functions here, okay? But I separated it because you can't really simplify one that's not a power of 2 and the other one that is a power of 2. If I had cosine squared over sine squared, that would be cotangent squared. But I don't have the cosine squared on the top, so I separated it into two fractions. Now this is cotangent x, and this is cosecant x. So my final answer, I don't know which one the book would write first, it doesn't really matter, but is going to be negative cotangent x cosecant
Is that
x.
CTN or what's
Okay,
that?
or cosecant x
COT.
cotangent x.
What?
COT.
So
Cot.
cotangent x cosecant x. Okay. So the derivative of cosecant would be negative cotangent x cosecant x. I'll see what, and it doesn't matter. The order, I figured they probably did. They do put the cosecant first, but again, it really doesn't matter. It's a product of those two.
Where did
Okay.
you say these rules are again in the book? To which page?
All four derivatives that that you would have to be able to derive, not the work of it, but all four derivatives are on page 123. Carmen, to fill you in, we did derivative of sine was cosine, we did derivative of cosine was negative sine. I introduced those last week. We still have the other four derivatives tangent, cosecant, secant, cotangent, and you will have to derive those, any of those four. And this would be an example of how we do. They're, the sine and cosine you don't have to derive, but it's one of those other four. So we've done, I did tangent with you, we rewrote it as sine over cosine and used the quotient rule. Just like we just did cosecant, wrote it as 1 over sine, used the quotient rule to get to our answer. So I would say, let's maybe do this. I'm going to give you guys time. Let's see if you guys can do secant and cotangent right now in the next five minutes here or so. Okay, you guys try those. See if you're getting the right answer. The right answers are on page 123. Okay, but that's deriving trig derivatives.